Oh, hey, I didn't see you show up. Well, thanks for joining me here in our tree belts. And yeah, it's me, Tim Puchkowski with ABC Acres. And we're talking about tree pruning today. Specifically, when and why you prune per season. Right now, I'm going through the whole property and I'm pretty much pruning up all the trees. I like doing it in winter because, one, you're preventing the spread of fungus and disease, but then you're also preventing an infection of a potential disease on a tree. Specifically, when you're pruning your tree, you have your limbs that, let's say a tree is infected, you know it was infected, you take those limbs off of those diseased limbs, take them off site, and you're preventing a further spread. As well, since when you're doing these cuts, you have wounds of where the branch was. And so that could be a potential infection point for a tree. So when you're doing that in winter, you're preventing any sort of infection because nothing's in the air right now. There's no fungus that's surviving right now. Another reason to prune in winter is because in the fall or in the summer, your tree will take all of that sugar and all of that energy and store it in its leaves. And then come fall, it drops its leaves, and before it drops its leaves, it takes all the sugar and all the energy and stores it down into its roots. And so come spring, after you've pruned after you've pruned your tree, it has essentially a full tank of gas to start growing. So it's not going to waste its energy on leafing out those branches that you pruned out. So right from the get-go, come grow season, your tree is already starting out on the right foot. So another time that you can prune would be early spring. Now, depending on what your goals are, that can be a good or bad time. A downside of pruning in spring is that you're not having that initial full tank of gas in your tree with all of its stored energy, because by that time, or depending on what time of spring you're pruning, your tree has started leafing out, and so it's already wasted some energy on those leaves. So you don't have all that potential stored energy. But if you're pruning up your orchard and you want to see your blossoms because you want to alter your fruit production, then that's an important time for you to be able to assess your tree and see how the tree is starting to develop and blossoms and the amount of leaf coverage you have. So pruning in summer, that could be you can use that as your advantage depending on what you're trying to do. So in summer, your tree is investing a lot of its energy into its fruit production, into its leaves, into the growth of its branches. So pruning in summer, you're not going to get that vigorous growth. So if your goal is you want to thin out your tree, but you don't want it to grow any further, you're trying to maintain its size, you're going to want to prune it in summer because you're not going to have that vigorous growth. But there are some disadvantages. You are more susceptible to fungal infections and disease infections because you have those openings and it's summer. But if you pruned it correctly and you have good airflow, you can easily prevent that. Now, fall pruning, I don't necessarily recommend. When you're pruning out your tree in the fall, the cuts that you made from those branches aren't going to have enough time to heal by winter. So that's a time I actually would not recommend. So to wrap up, pruning in winter, you have the advantage of come spring, you're going to have lots of energy stored up so that tree can start on the right foot for its big growing season. You have the reduced impact of disease and the spread of disease. And you have the ability to see the tree as its bare structure, which can be helpful. Spring, although you don't have as much stored energy, you still have a pretty decent amount. You don't have the full explosive start stored up, but you have the advantage of seeing the blossoms and seeing the general leaf fill-in that you can use to your advantage. Summer, you're not going to have the ability to promote that vigorous growth, but you can use that to your advantage because you can thin out a tree without having that explosive growth. Fall, I don't recommend pruning. You don't have that healing time that a tree needs to prepare for winter. So, thanks for watching. Leave some comments below if you have any questions. I'll gladly answer them. And until next time, happy growing.